Morning, everyone, or whenever you're watching this, but I'm recording it at the morning. It's Wednesday, the 25th of March. I have to look at my watch because you sort of lose track of time and day at the moment, but it's Wednesday, 25th of March, and it's just before 9 o'clock. And we're just going to try something a little bit different. I suppose you call it a video cast. I'm going to invite, or have invited, 5 members of Tonbridge Athletic Club to attend this conference call this morning, or video conference call, and we're going to record it. The aim of this is to really, first of all, demonstrate that a package called Zoom, an app, can be downloaded to create these calls and keep in contact with people at these difficult times during this coronavirus outbreak. We're going to talk about our sport, which is distance running, alongside how everyone's coping. Slightly different circumstances, but we do appreciate how lucky the bunch of us are compared to many out there who are struggling either in total isolation, locked away, or unwell, or families unwell or struggling. So we must bear that in mind and wish everyone the best in the current circumstances. Zoom is downloadable. I discovered that the free version gives you 40 minutes of discussion, so I've subscribed to a month's subscription, which is about just over £11, so that gives you unlimited minutes. It's quite simple to download, a little bit of tinkering around with making sure you've got the microphone on and everyone can hear each other. But otherwise, it works really well. And I've tried it with some family members and over the last few days. And so we're going to do it. And the aim for doing it is to encourage others to get in touch with either members of their club or people outside the club, to ensure that they're getting on with their training and life, and maybe address some issues they might have or help them. And then in our particular case, I've got a plan that what I'd like to see is a few of the people in this discussion that's going to take place, cascading it down to others within the club. Now, that might be veteran runners who are isolated at home, or it might be teenagers who are just a little bit adrift in the current climate in terms of, are they training? And if so, what type of training they do? Are they demotivated? Have we got a risk of losing them to the club or the sport? And just try and keep in touch rather than through email and messages, which are not always responded to. So that's the aim. Bit of a commitment, but we're going to give it a go. So on to the discussion. It's the morning of 25th of March 2020, and we've got an elite squad from Tonbridge Athletic Club to talk about our sport, how it's affected by the coronavirus and life in general, and what we're hoping to do about it. So I'll go around and introduce everybody. We've got James Taylor. Now he's a runner, only cross country, no track, no road. He teaches at Judd School, he officiates, he's an all-round good egg, and so we've got James up there in the top corner next to me. Then coming down, we've got Alice Wood. Oh, she's been around for more than a decade with Tonbridge AC. Been on her travels, been to university, done a bit of work, and then went on her travels again, and all over the shop. So we're going to be talking to Alice about her experience as she's just come back to the UK. We've got Ellen Pitcairn-Knowles, a member of the famous Pitcairn-Knowles family. There's 5 members of the family at Tonbridge AC. I think you're all self-isolating now at home, aren't you? Actually met up because you've all been on your travel. Yeah, so they're back as a family, and Ellen runs with us and was working in Spain recently, so that'll be interesting. Below Ellen, we've got Pete Brenchley, former elite distance runner with various clubs, and now a coach at Tonbridge AC. Pete's retired. His wife particularly is in vulnerable situations. She's broken her wrist recently and she had pneumonia last year. and Pete's got a flat in Spain, which he travels to occasionally, so he's got contacts there. And then we've got Cameron Pius, final year student at the University of Surrey, based in Guildford, but now back home to complete his degree before hopefully starting work in a few weeks' time. So we will start with JT this time. And James, broke up from Friday. What's your experience been so far of last week and the last few days?
Well, last week, it's well publicised. We broke up Friday. The last few days were a little bit odd, but I think the decision was taken at the right time, because the few days earlier last week I thought were quite normal. Attendance at school was pretty good, but it was slightly odd that this crisis was unfolding and people were talking about isolating, and I was teaching in a class of 32 boys for an hour, 5 times a day. So that was slightly odd. Since then, the kids have been at home, except for a handful, and most staff have been told to stay at home as well. So I haven't been in at all yet, and now I've got no reason to go in. So we're setting work remotely. So yeah, it's been a funny situation.
Yeah. Okay. We'll come back to you in a sec to elaborate on that and ask you some questions. So we'll come down to Ellen, who wasn't expecting to be back in the UK. Ellen, what's your situation?
So I was working in Madrid, and I came back last Friday. So just before it all kicked off there, we on the Wednesday all the kids stopped going to school, and on the Friday all the bars and restaurants shut, and I flew back that Friday afternoon. And I think it was pretty good timing, because the next few days was a bit of a panic for all the airports and the flights. It was strange how it suddenly shut down the life there, and now I've got contacts who are out there, who a lot of them live in flats in the city centre in Madrid, and obviously it's very different for them out there, and at the moment particularly.
Okay, and then who had to travel even further, we've got Alice. Your situation, do you want to briefly explain that, Alice, where you were a few days ago? And
yeah, I was traveling in Guatemala, and then for around 5 weeks, and then obviously around a week ago it all started getting a bit more serious. So Guatemala, the president closed all the land, sea and air borders, so that made a lot of travellers panic, including myself. Thankfully I managed to get across the Mexican border and get a flight home. But it was, the Guatemalan president, he's been very good, and he shut down all the schools, and there's a 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. curfew. So he's implemented a lot of precautionary measures very quickly.
And just compared to the UK now, how strict was that?
It was very strict. So they've only got, I think at the moment, 18 or 20 cases, but he closed down all the schools before I think they even reached 10 cases, in comparison to obviously JT, and all the public transport and private transport, and I mean, yeah, everything shut down a lot quicker. But the president was a medically trained doctor, so potentially that was one reason.
So are people allowed to go out running in Guatemala during the day outside that curfew?
Technically all sporting activities are prohibited, but I did see a few runners. Well, when I was there, it might have changed slightly.
Okay. And Cameron, now you're in a situation thousands are in at the moment with university. What's your situation with you?
So yeah, I'm University of Surrey student in my final year. So right now we've all pretty much got dissertations, assignments and exams to be thinking about and doing. So it's probably a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago where the university really started putting measures on campus, hand sanitizer everywhere, extra cleaning of campus, signs up about information if you've been to this country, for example. And then, so last week, Wednesdays, when they said all teaching on campus stops and it's all going online. And probably the start of that week, on the Monday, the attendance had really dropped, I would say. And campus was so much emptier than usual. And there had been one case of someone, I don't know if they actually had coronavirus, but there was self-isolation on campus, and like this specialist medical team came on with all the suits and the ambulance and everything. So it was quite a surreal experience.
Jeez, yeah. And the work you've actually got to do at the moment, what does that involve, and what are the prospects of being marked accordingly and correctly for your?
So mine's all, I can all do it online. I can just do essays or online exams. I do business management and French, so it's not a hands-on subject, so it can be done on the computer, which is fortunate for me. Luckily, it won't have to be any predicted grades or marked unfairly. It was all based on my work, which is reassuring. So yeah, it's not too bad a situation, but I know there are other students that are worrying.
Yeah. And Pete, your situation, you're self-isolating, well, with the wife over at Staplehurst, yeah?
Well, I'm in the vulnerable category, really. Well, it's something I'm not used to. It's something none of us are used to. It's a situation that's not occurred before. Yeah, it's perhaps a little bit more, perhaps a bit more aware, because Anne, my wife, had pneumonia just over a year ago. So her immune system is decidedly questionable. I mean, I go out on my own in the morning, which is nice for some sort of exercise. I also go down to the road to get a newspaper, and I put gloves on, white gloves on, to do that, because I collect a newspaper for the people next door who are in their 80s. And I leave those gloves outside, outside the back door, like a pair of muddy boots.
Can't hear you because of Micah.
Oh,
sorry. Sorry, everyone.
Okay. Shall I carry on?
Calms down. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Carry on. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lockdown situation. I mean, as I said to you the other evening, Tuesdays, I can't remember when I last spent a Tuesday evening at home. Both as a serious athlete and then in a coaching capacity after that. We must be going back decades. It's very strange, and it's not a situation I'm used to. Not a situation we're used to in the UK, where we've always had freedom to wander around. But it's something we've got to get used to. Unfortunately, some people aren't heeding advice, and I just hope that at the moment the government are being kind of Mr. Nice Guy and requesting that we do things. But if people ignore it, I can see them having to insist and making a legal requirement, which will be sad for all the good guys.
And you actually had a visit to a hospital yesterday, yeah?
Yeah, I took Anne to Pembury. She had her plaster removed and had a little cast put on it. I didn't go in, actually. She went in with a mask and gloves on, and I stayed up in the car park waiting for the call.
Yeah. You actually got a car parking slot because it was quite quiet.
Actually, very, very clear. I've never been to Pembury where, you could choose where you went. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing that in hospitals. I mean, we're getting them out as quick as you can. Anne said there weren't many patients around. There seemed to be more staff, and she was in and out and dismissed very quickly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the policy at the moment, to not have people hanging about, presumably in case there's an onslaught when we've got all our resources available.
Yeah. Okay, so that sets the scene a little bit, and we'll go on to let's talk a bit about how we're managing and coping with continuing to do some running or keep fit, and how that's fitting into your normal life. Let's start perhaps with Ellen, because Ellen's got the experience both at Spain recently and here, and we know Spain are ahead of us in terms of crisis, if you like, and so there were more restrictions came in before the UK. So, Ellen, do you want to talk about what you've managed to do, what others are managing to do now?
Yes, so obviously at the moment we're very lucky that we can go out once a day for our daily exercise. So I've been enjoying the sun and going out for a run, and I lost my job in Spain. So that and it was a 4-month contract. So that's obviously it stopped after 1 month. So I'm now at home with the chance to get quite fit, doing lots of home workouts. I've got friends from America who we've been doing just like this on Zoom. We've been doing workouts together, and in Spain they've got quite a different setup because they're not allowed to leave their houses, and obviously, as I said, a lot of them are in the city in flats. A couple of them have turbos, so they're doing workouts on there, but the triathlon coach has been doing a bit like Joe Wick in the UK. She's been doing her workout classes live on Facebook, and all of the families have been logging in and doing them from their living rooms, which is quite nice community spirit, keeping everyone going, because obviously it's tough for them at the moment. They're at the real tricky part.
And how tough are those sessions, and what do they involve?
So they're quite tough. I've been enjoying doing this challenge called Death by Burpees. So that's one where every minute you add on another burpee, and then your recovery gets shorter. And there's a couple of us who have been doing it for a while, and we're trying to all get a bit competitive with it. There's also lots of different ones. So I send a picture to some friends from school who aren't really sporty people. So I'll send them like a workout picture like this, and then we'll all do it together. There's so many things, and on YouTube, Facebook, everything, Instagram, we've got workouts coming out of our ears. So there's lots to keep us busy.
Yeah. And do you think if the running wasn't available to you, doing those things, you'll be able to maintain a decent level of fitness?
I think people will be amazed at how much all the HIIT workouts, and if you choose more aerobic circuit styles, that it will keep your fitness up more than people think. Because sometimes, I know for me, sometimes when I focus purely on my running, my other fitness and my strength goes a little bit. So this is a good chance to really work on that. And as I said, if you can design circuits cleverly so that they really challenge your lungs, I'm not a professional, but then it keeps you fit. But at the moment, we're very, very lucky to go out. And so I've been enjoying just going out for a run, no pressure on it. We've obviously got no races to train for, and really enjoying the sun and getting out.
And James, you're not a great fan of circuits and weights and stuff like that. Particularly, you love going out for your runs, don't you? So
yeah, I do. I was interested actually. I want to know what Pete's view on this is, as on the old school. How important are these extra exercises, Pete, or is running enough?
Am I on, Mike? Yeah. Well, it's a factor, isn't it? It's like a lot of things. It's important for the package, and you are the package. I mean, running is the main thing, but other factors are the amount of sleep you get, what your diet's like. You need to be strong in your core and that sort of thing. It's another factor that wraps up to be part of the runner's package, really. And you can add in things like Pilates and stretching and things like that. Just depends how much time you have available to incorporate all these other things. But the mainstay is the running, because you're a runner.
Yeah, and I think some people forget that, don't they? They think they're in a press-up competition.
You can make yourself strong, and strength is good.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned time, and I think now we've got the time, it's going to be interesting to see if people use it. If people have the discipline to want to get better, then this is the ideal time, isn't it? And I mean, we're lucky with the fact we can still run, and the weather's great again today. So hopefully, runners are getting out there, getting a nice stress-free run in. I intend to go out shortly.
It was interesting. Yesterday, I took the dog for a walk at 5:30. That was my outdoor exercise, although I did go on the cross trainer for an hour earlier in the day, and it was. But I don't think I've ever seen so many people going for a walk or a run. you know,
People running who've never ran in their lives.
yeah, there's all this talk about exercise, so I think it's high on the agenda. How about you, Alice? What's your view on this aspect?
So I ran for the first time in a while yesterday, which was actually really nice. But yeah, I think I was struggling a bit. Well, maybe it's just jet lag and everything, but with motivation. So I think we just have to also. I mean, running always makes you feel better. Like we know that it releases endorphins, but sometimes it's hard when you go on social media and everyone seems to be keeping fit and, you know, doing lots of home workouts. So I think some people, like, we're not going to be motivated every day, and I think we just need to, I guess, be kind to ourselves and realize that if you are having, you know, a down day, just don't feel guilty about it. And if you want to go just for a really easy run or a walk, then that's okay as well. I mean, a lot of people are, I guess, I think it's extrinsically motivated in that they're motivated just by races. So it's going to be hard for a lot of people if they have nothing to train for. So yeah, I think we touched on it yesterday, just by doing it for enjoyment as well. That's okay.
Yeah, some good points there. We'll talk about that later. And Cameron, you were expecting a track season and to run, I don't know, 340 or whatever for 1500 this summer, weren't you? So, you know, a bit of a shock to the system being put in this situation. How's your thinking about that now?
So yeah, I was expecting a track season. Not really expecting one now. Probably quite fortunate that this hasn't come around in, say, June or May, where people are really getting ready for track season. So yeah, my thinking on training is I don't have to be pushing it as much as usual. Just keeping a good level of fitness going. But mainly so that it doesn't drop too much. So when I come back for cross country, I'll be ready and not too far behind where I usually am. So yeah.
Yeah. So are you just accepting it and just training easily, or are you going to set yourself little targets through the summer to hit a time trial or whatever, if it's possible?
I haven't really thought that much about it. Just, I don't know, trying to keep the same level of activity going in terms of volume, but maybe not worrying too much about intensity. Maybe doing one or two harder runs or, I don't know, fartlek during the week, but not looking into it too much. Yeah.
Okay. I suppose I should mention myself, because I've had a lot of messages, people saying, Mark, what are you going to do with yourself? You know, because I spend time team managing all winter and coaching, well, probably at some sort of session 6 days a week, emailing sessions out, reporting on them, doing videos of races and putting them on YouTube. So, yeah, this comes quite a loss to me. So I'm trying to think constructively what I can do to replace that, and this is part of it. But also I re-engaged with people I used to work with more than 10 years ago and set up a Facebook group yesterday morning. We've got over 100 members now, where I posted some memorabilia, some old, I used to do videos back then, so it's been quite funny finding those and putting some photos up and re-engaging with people. So that was positive. And I'm still continuing to send out a weekly email to the Tonbridge distance runners, just so they've got some structure, you know, and got some news about what's going on, how people are coping in the current situation. Because I think there'll be quite a few athletes, most in our group are over 18 and pretty independent, and they will make their own minds up how much, as Alice said, how much they're going to push themselves or take easy, but they will all do something, I'm certain of. Whereas the 16 and 17-year-olds that I think might be lost a little bit, not have that structure, not quite have the knowledge and the independence to go off and do something themselves. So I think that's a group of people we've really got to think about? I mean, JT, I mean, you run at school with a lot of these lads around that age. Have you got some thoughts on those aspects?
Well, I agree. Those boys, they're mostly boys that I teach at that age, might not be able to train as we do on our own. As a senior distance runner, we're used to running on our own. I don't think that's a big problem for us. Although it is still hard to get out of bed in the morning and go for a run. I admit that myself. So, trying to keep in touch with them through any means we can, reminding them that as a club, we still exist, even though we're not doing the thing at the moment in terms of competitions or training. Might keep them a bit happier for the next few months. So, yeah. I mean, Ellen, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, like Mark said, I know that if this happened when I was 16, 17, I've kind of accepted now. I do sport for the love of it. I will never be, well, you never know, but I won't be the next GB runner. I just do it because I really enjoy it. And I know that if this happened to me when I was 16, 17, before I realised that I'm doing it because I want to, I know it would have been difficult to keep motivated. And like Alice said, I think every day seeing all these people staying fit and you're at home not really sure. I know that a lot of them have got quite a lot of work to be doing in terms of studying, so that might help them with a bit of structure for their day. But if we can do things through the club, like Mark's reached out to us on Zoom, it's a great opportunity for us to speak to some of the younger years. I know that we all went on Sunday runs with a whole range of age groups. We had under 15s, under 17s, vets runners. So it's a really nice opportunity for us to all engage a bit more. I know we never would have sat down for an hour and spoken to each other before this. So hopefully we can all start a little chain and reach out to the younger people and just say to them, whatever you can do, just do it because you want to do it, you enjoy it. And it's, yeah, like at the moment we're lucky enough to be going outside and going for our runs, and I'd like to think that they see a day like this and think, I've got to go out and enjoy something, even if it's just a jog and with your music on, and that's it. It doesn't need to be a session or fartlek or anything like that.
You said something there about structure, and I think yesterday was the first day that I started to struggle a bit with that myself. Normally I will go I do all my emails and work in the morning, and then in the afternoon I will spend an hour or so in the gym, and then I find I'll have a little cup of tea, gather my thoughts, and then go down the club, and then that'll take me up to 8:30, come home, have dinner, blah, blah, blah. But yesterday, it flipped round. I went in the gym in the morning and I found the hours were quite long in the afternoon. So I took the dog for a walk and I was finding things to do, but it's quite difficult. Pete, what's your thoughts on that, structuring your day, and you how are you coping as a coach?
Well, I'm advised coaching by correspondence at the moment, really. And I'm contacting people, and maybe every couple of days with effectively saying, how are you going, how are you, and getting a reply, and then giving some feedback off the back of that. I planned out I'm talking about, leaving Simon aside because he's kind of following the Loughborough schedule. Incidentally, talking of Loughborough, George Gandy put out an email, and I'm fortunate enough to be on George's mailing list. And he was trying to get lads and lasses to, I don't know quite how they're going to do it if they can't get on tracks, but do time trials maybe every month or 3 weeks or something like that, simulate a race situation, and then send it in by correspondence.
Right.
So just a kind of motivational factor, really.
Yeah.
Leaving that aside, no, and I've planned out I was taking the distance endurance group at the club, and they were keying for marathons. Well, they're not now, so we've moderated the distance they were running now, and hoping to get them running faster, so increasing the intensity to get them faster runners effectively, because a lot of them used to train at the speed they would run a marathon at, so effectively a lot of them were plodding all the time. Getting them to change their thinking a bit, and they've embraced this, to be honest, and they're coming back to me with some of them came back last night with the sessions they've done during the day as well.
Alice or Cameron, maybe Alice first. What would you expect of a club or coach at both your age, and if you were in school, what would you hope to get in these sorts of times? Although you probably would never have anticipated it, of course.
I think because I haven't been looking at my emails recently, but I think having like that training schedule, even if it's a rough plan, probably will help me a lot. Just because then I'll know what I should be doing every day, and if a session's written down, then you're definitely more likely to do it, especially if you have that coach or person to relay it back to, even if it's to do with S&C sessions, like to work on your weaknesses. If it's all written down, then it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Cameron, any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think certainly we're all old enough to get on with it ourselves. We pretty much should know what we're doing. I think at the moment, given we're probably not going to be racing quite a while, I don't think there's any need to hit a key session like you would normally before a race, maybe a speed session. So just, I think, just training, keeping it going, and just raising the intensity every now and again. I think that's enough. You don't have to overdo it.
Yeah, I think in general, as Ellen's mentioned, and one or two of you have commented on that, people have just backed off a little bit on the intensity, but keeping the volume up so that they can come back to it when necessary. And I've even found with athletes preparing for an indoor season in December, just 2 or 3 progressive sessions, moving the speed forward, they can run pretty quick off that once racing does start, when you're talking about track racing. But then, of course, the people we all feel with for are marathon runners who've gone through this, probably 2/3 of their marathon build up to a spring marathon, and now left high and dry. And from what I've seen, people have taken it really well, and they're just refocusing, ready for the autumn.
I think this does really make you realise how lucky we all are that marathons are part of our lives, but they're also a side, our hobby and interest. I know for some people it is their work, but when you see what the country and the world is going through, it makes you realise why you're doing the marathons, why we're keeping fit for enjoyment, and I think it just puts things into perspective a bit. And makes...
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough for somebody like my son who's swapped to decathlon. He was on the verge of moving all his PBs forward and looking forward to maybe a cup, 2 or 3 competitions at that event in the summer, and that's all gone. It's a bit like a sprinter training all winter and then coming out and putting a hamstring in April when their season's over. It's as distance runners, we're very, very lucky. Pete.
On the marathon thing, really, I mean, if you look at, say, the principles of somebody like Arthur Lydiard, who you and I know, and James will obviously, the foundation that those guys were putting in for the marathon training is their good base to key off of anything else they might do. So it's certainly not wasted time. It might be psychologically wasted, but in athletic terms, it certainly wasn't wasted. It's a very positive move.
And I was thinking of Lydiard yesterday, because if we're only allowed out once a day, he advocated doing 1 single run a day that was very long rather than 2. So very suitable.
Okay, we'll go on to the next point, which is initiatives that you've seen. I mean, I'll kick off with one, which is something that's going around social media, and I've put on our group WhatsApp. Is that on the Saturday the 4th of April, there was going to be the National Road Relay Championships at Sutton Coldfield with men's 12 stage stage, which of course is not taking place. And I've seen a couple of examples where clubs have done head-to-head relays where people have gone out and run, logged it on Strava or on their GPS, and they've constructed a relay race together based on the cumulative times. And somebody's going to try and do a national championship organised for that day, providing we're not on lockdown. I think it's generally be really welcomed. And I think there'd be quite a good take-up. I'm not talking about thousands of people running, of course. You're talking about a few hundred dotted around the country. But there has been the odd negative comment about that in terms of, is it encouraging athletes to go and really push themselves hard at this particular moment? Perhaps that might affect their immune system. And secondly, if you encourage a lot of runners all on one day, they might go to well-known locations and not be running completely in isolation on that day, even though it's a 24-hour period. People have got to do it. So there's a lot of positives, but there's a few negatives that make you feel a little bit guilty about.
I think we have to take each day as it comes at the moment, don't we? Because as we can see in Spain and Italy, the situation is even more intense than here, and we don't quite know how long, what each day is going to involve. So it's a great way to keep people's morale up and also keep sharing that running spirit around. Who knows if in 2 weeks' time we'll be able to or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I presume there's quite a few competitions going on like that without the publicity. Alice?
I think some of those worries about people going to the same places, I guess, like club managers, that's easy for club managers maybe just to say, like, set people different times to go to those places. But
yeah, I mean, if
I think it's a good idea.
I'd find a field and just do laps up to 5k. It's over 5k, so you find a field and you just thrash it like a track race.
Or you find a nice downhill bit and then you go even faster, don't you?
There's a rule about that.
Oh, is that okay? Yeah. I mean, I think it sounds a good idea. I mean, you could say people shouldn't be smashing it, but people, seniors, it's the same as normal at this time of year. You could argue you shouldn't be smashing it, but there's usually a 12-stage relay, isn't there? So why not? Sounds good for motivation to me.
That was my response to it. I think the athletes were talking about are used to running in isolation, on their own and finding remote areas and their imagination to do it. So I don't think it would be a massive issue. Pete?
I mean, our vets have done a sort of mini thing like that, haven't they? Where they're going around what we call the Powder Mills route and comparing times on that. So that's just another factor of putting yourself out there, really, and staying motivated in the sport. And I think, when you're talking about the younger lads and lasses in our club, really, I mean, you do very well when we have people in our club going to colleges and universities. You keep them in the loop, and that's what we've got to try and do with them, to keep them feeling part of the unit, the club, and the enthusiasm that goes with that.
Okay, we'll come on to that in a second, but has anyone else?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Anyone else got any examples of initiatives that they've heard about or seen that that people...
We mentioned it yesterday, but the Joe Wicks 9 o'clock in the morning live PE lessons for the whole nation. So that's gone down really well, and it just makes us realize how great the internet is and everything we can do on it at the moment, because I've seen thousands of people creating things and workouts and challenges and messages, and I think it's great for people to know that there are things out there to do. I just worry about the people who are lonely or sad by themselves, and that doesn't help them. It just scares them off more, and how we can reach out to them.
Yeah. I've seen I think Kelly Holmes was doing something, and I saw Davina McCall making her. I've never looked at it. As a hardcore distance runner, you tend to steer clear of that sort of stuff. But then I saw Thomas Gale, who I know from it was Stoke Athletic Club. He tweeted that he's actually tried a Davina McCall session with his wife and found it extremely testing.
Is he the high jumper?
No, this was Tom Gale. He now reports on BBC. Used to be an 800-meter runner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, I think some of us might be, keep well clear of that sort of stuff, but perhaps we ought to try it occasionally and see what, I think they are pretty tough. So, And
Yeah.
Well, Mark, if I get challenged to do the press ups, I'll nominate you.
Well, Alice, I'll challenge you then.
Do 10.
the other thing I want to say is, I think it's been, you've got. I think Cameron said the other day he's got access to stationary bike and elliptical cross trainer at home. So I think if you're a serious athlete or distance runner, it's worth being conscious of your heart rate and making sure you get that up regularly, 2 or 3 times a week, to with sort of interval sessions, etc. So there's a conscious effort to do that. I've seen people, when they're injured, do aqua running and do that and almost be physically sick in the pool because they're building up so much lactic and their heart rate's so high, and it can come off it in a few weeks being pretty fit at the end of it.
Yeah, I'd evidenced that the year I spent in the aqua pool. I came back and had a national that I haven't often beaten in position-wise. In fact, I was higher up that year than I was this year, embarrassingly. I only ran once before it. It's very, very effective aqua jogging. That's another Lydiard principle, actually, that we never our aerobic base is often undercooked, if you like. There's a lot of potential on the aerobic side that we don't tap into. You can't overdo it aerobically as a runner, let's put it that way.
I think I'm going to start doing like some skipping as well, because that's really good. And you can do it inside if we're confined.
Okay, so I think we're coming towards the end. So I think we should finish up with maybe little commitments we're each going to make to making ours or somebody else's lives a bit better, whether involved with the sport or otherwise. And so, who wants to go first on that? Ellen.
Okay, I was going to nominate myself to go first anyway. I am going to every single day be positive and check in with some friends who I know are finding it difficult. Obviously, having seen the news yesterday, I've signed up for one of the volunteers, so we'll wait to hear back about that, but doing what we can for the nation, and I am going to do my grandparents' shopping for them this afternoon, and soon do a live workout with the people from America who I'm still in contact with. And I think just making sure that we're reaching out to people who have gone off the radar a bit. If someone's not, obviously we're all in our homes, so if they're not replying to their messages or on their phones, maybe they're just not using them. But also in the back of my mind, I do think, I hope they're all right. So yeah.
Okay, well done. Pete?
My wife is very good at volunteering me to help. As you probably know, she's involved with the church and the parish and all that. And they've got a lot of senior ladies who physically and sometimes mentally aren't always 100%. So she gets me phoning around and doing this, that, and the other for them. Really, can I just say, in general terms, I think at the moment, at this point in time, we are not in a great situation, but we are in a good situation. And I think that if people are sensible, and we know that unfortunately not everybody is, that we can continue as we are by, we're runners and we can go out once a day and do what we do and feel that we have at least been, what it's like when you're a runner, you feel as though you've done something, no matter, in my case, particularly slowly, but I still feel the psychological well-being of having done something, and I'm sure we all feel the same. I just hope that practice can continue and that the people who are irresponsible don't ruin it for the good guys, because as I said earlier, at the moment, the government and Boris are being nice and asking people to do it, but I just hope it doesn't get to the stage like where we're having Spain, for example, where, there's the line, don't cross it, buddy. And that will spoil it for all of us. And once people are at home, not everybody's got exercise equipment. I've got a bit, you have as well, and we'd be okay, even though we'd be frustrated being indoors all the time. We could do it, but a lot of people haven't, and it would athletically create problems for all like-minded people like us.
Yeah. Cameron?
It's quite similar to Ellen, actually, just maybe helping the certain vulnerable people, elderly people with shopping. Again, like what Pete says, making sure we're playing our part, and you can run and adhere to what the government's saying, and then with regards to supermarkets, making sure we're not stock piling, because there are some people out there buying willy-nilly. So yeah, it's not overdoing it.
Well,
Just getting through the period.
I go and do the food shopping next time, but I said no, it's probably good she does it. She knows where everything is, so she can get in and get out quick. I think at this time, somebody looking completely lost in a supermarket, do we? And the issues holding everybody else up. So she's got that down to a T. So I think she'll be continuing to do that for us. But anyway, Alice.
Yeah, so as well as Ellen, I saw that the NHS was like calling out for volunteers, so I've signed up for that. And yeah, trying to stay positive, talking to friends, make use of my time, but also not feel bad if sometimes you just want to watch TV.
You mentioned something else, didn't you, before, when we were talking before?
Oh yeah. Well, before I went traveling, there was this. I was volunteering with this Call in Time Age UK initiative, which I was a telephone friend, so I was matched with an elderly lady who was around 86, and every week I just had a 20-30 minute conversation with her, and it just helps to try and combat loneliness. So I think if anyone can do any volunteering when they can, it will probably help with that feeling of losing your schedule, and it will make you feel better just because you're helping other people does make you feel better as well. So yeah, that was, maybe contact them. I think the NHS volunteering, they're trying to arrange something similar. So yeah. And it was very easy. Most of the time she was talking at me, so it was good. I recommend.
Nearby you, and was it local? What was it?
Well, because of confidentiality reasons, we couldn't tell each other where we lived. But I think she was relatively close by.
Okay, well done. And James?
Well, my family, of course, are the priority at this time. With 3 of us, there soon will be 4 of us. It's actually quite nice to have some family time. And I noticed, like you did, Mark, when gone out and about and actually seen lots of families out and around, lots of people. I think conversely, this could be quite a positive time for people's families, if they're not affected personally by the disease, just to spend some time together. And I think, as Pete said, enjoy while we can. Go for a run. If you're listening to this and you struggle for motivation, then just get out and go. So the longer you leave it, does get harder, doesn't it? So go out and have a run. And I've never regretted going out for a run. So
even if you do a walk, jog. I used to do it all the time, and anything keeps you sane.
Yeah. And also
makes everything better.
Exercise improves your immune system. So
true.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Well, I'm committed to not necessarily do a few more of these, but certainly get in touch with people. Like I know 1 or 2 people that are particularly lonely. That more mature people who have really taken a hit on this. They're working from home, but they've literally got nobody else living with them. And I'm lucky that there's 2 or 3 here that I see every day and can talk to, but it's really, really tough if you're totally on your own. So I'll probably be inviting them maybe for a Friday night drink or something like this, a virtual one, where we I'm also due to host a conference telephone call with some other coaches around the country. I think it's 3rd of April, but I might suggest we do it via Zoom, which is what we're using at the moment. It's nice to see people, I think, and I think it helps because you can anticipate when somebody wants to talk a little bit more. So I will try and train up a few, not train up, that's a bit, it's but get a few others confident to be set up with this sort of thing. So, and then, as I said earlier, try and cascade it a little bit through the club.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I will use this, providing it's recorded okay, to encourage maybe others in the club, particularly that under 17s and under 20s, to try to motivate each other a little bit. So I think that's important. So yeah, quite a lot to do. I feel better for talking to you guys and feel like the day is a lot more worthwhile as a result of it. So thank you again, and
thank you, Mark, for organising it. No, and hopefully we can do a few more.
Yeah, same time tomorrow then. Yeah.
Same conversation.
Okay, let's hope it's recorded. Okay, best wishes everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.